Welcome back. So let's get right to the matter of national security, which we will never exhaust, exploring, especially with the many dimensions to this challenge, seen in the consequence of loss of lives, in the consequences of, many becoming orphans and widows as a result of the fight against insecurity. But there's also the matter of whether or not our troops have the wherewithal, to continue in this fight against insecurity. And we have joining us from our Abuja studio this morning a security consultant, Mr. Jonathan Onoja, who's here to bring his experience to bear on this conversation. Mr. Onoja, good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning. Thank you for having me on your programs.
Thank you for coming. And so we've seen in the last couple of weeks and months, generals taking the fall in the fight against insecurity. There's General Musa Uba, or Colonel Musa Uba, I beg your pardon. There's Brigadier General Hussein Ibrahimo. We've also lost another general lately, yesterday in the fight against insecurity. The big question now is, for the military bases in the Northeast and in the Northwest, do they have the wherewithal, do they have the backup, do they have the cover, especially in those military bases? What should it look like as against what it currently is and the results that we're seeing?
All right, thank you. When you talk about backup, this backup comes in various forms. Backup from financial backup or gratuity or support, or is it X support? So when you say backup, it is a whole lot of, stuffs put together. But let me take it from here. The current military formation lacks the needed backup to give, their best when it has to do with fighting insecurity, insurgencies in the North Central and also in the Northeast. I give you an instance which you have just mentioned. A whole general was killed in this country. Only God knows if the families have even gotten their gratuity. So we've had a whole lot of challenges with our military fight against insecurity. Ordinarily, the military is not designed to fight, internal insecurity, but external aggression. But when the need arrives, they rose to the occasion, putting their lives, online for Nigerians, and doing a whole lot of things from the days of ISWA, Boko Haram. They have been there, down to the bandit that we have experienced kidnapping in Abuja-Kaduna Expressway, happening in Borno, in Kaduna, even within the Federal Capital Territory. There is no place left, and the military have been fighting it headlong. So the main challenge is, what is the motivation? When you talk about the backup, what backup have they given to the military? And His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, I must commend him, has done a whole lot of, things to ensure that the military get it right. In terms of financial support they have given to the military, in terms of equipment, warfare, and with partnership from even with other countries. He has done that to ensure that the military gets its feet when it comes to do with, the fight against insecurity. But there's a problem. The problem is lack of motivation. And this motivation, or this lack of motivation rather, is as a result of the leadership vacuum that has been created at the Military Pension Board. You recall, sometime last year, in 2025, there was an appointment of a chairman of the Military Pension Board. If you recall, ex-Vice Marshal Abubakar Idris Adamu retired, was appointed after a 3-month probationary period. And that also brought succor, that brought joy with commitment. We saw commitment of our armed forces, ensuring that, yes, when this best is put, their families will get gratuity, will get tobacco allowances, we get, their allowances as and when due. But then the hope was dashed when the chairman, despite, the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, verdict on his appointment through the office of the SGF. Up to this very moment, the chairman has not been allowed to resume office from military, hierarchy. I got to know this sometime last week when I read on news and also with the NTA news at 7. I saw that up to this very moment, the chairman has not been allowed to resume office. I also read on news where a civil society organization, the Security and Public Affairs Analyst Forum, and again, the Oduwa Integrity Group, calling on Mr. President to intervene speedily to ensure that ex-Vice Marshal Abubakar Adamu Idris resumed office. So I wonder, this is an affront on the exalted office of His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu as the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, that despite everything he's doing to ensure that our military gets the best, some individuals within the military hierarchy will say that an appointee of the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces will not resume office. So you can see that there's a sabotage even within the military formation. And that has affected the fight against insecurity. And if we must get it right, not until the military is assured of their gratuity, having in mind or bearing in mind that in case they give it in the course of the fight against insecurity, if they pay the ultimate price, that their families are not going to suffer, that their wives and their children will not be sent out of the barracks, and they won't be able to be sent out, they're not going to have children that will be sent out of school. Only when the military have an assurance of, of their gratuity. And again, if you notice, if you look at the life of our veterans, our military veterans, retired ex-servicemen, if you look at what they are doing, how they are going through pains, will you be committed to the fight against insecurity, knowing fully well that when you pay the ultimate price, or when you retire from service, that you are going to face the same? So only when we take care of our servicemen, that is the only time we can have a committed fight against insecurity. Otherwise, look at what is happening in Borno State, where generals are killed, where soldiers are killed, and nobody will want to, dare to go to pay the ultimate price again. So I urge His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu that while we go along, go so long in pouring wreaths on the graves of our fallen heroes, we must make it as a point of duty to ensure that our standing heroes are supported. And this is why I also, take it upon myself that, yes, when you call for this invitation, I say, yes, I must speak on it, because as a citizen, I believe that only when...
Yeah.
Please go ahead.
Your argument is, it cannot be discountenanced. It is very important to also take care of the back end of the fight against insurgency and banditry, which would be the welfare, in terms of gratuity, pensions, allowances, remuneration for the standing soldiers at the battlefield. But just as important will also be the tools that the standing soldiers require in the fight against insecurity. And you've commended the administration for providing that. But if indeed the administration has provided the technology, the equipment, the fighting gear that the troops require to prosecute the war against insurgency, will our officers be taking the fall the way they're taking the fall on the front lines?
Like I said, there is administration that have been so committed, providing the warfare equipment for our military than this administration. This is why I commended His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for, for that initiative. If you notice, since his assumption of office in 2023, you've seen that even our military budget have become something that other international countries, international communities are talking about. We've not had it so well when support for the military is a priority to a government. We've not had it so well like this government. So the government has given the best, including contributing salaries of His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to the military to show that the military is the strength of the country. Right. So I think in terms of in terms of equipment, His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu have done so well in procuring equipment. We've not had Tucano jet in the past administration. We've only been told about Tucano jet in this administration. The only thing that we need, with the current military needs, is the support of the community, is the support of the government, continuous support of the government, and ensure that we have, a military pension board in place that is ensuring that our military welfare is taken care of. So we have what it takes to combat, the insurgents headlong. It's just unfortunate that sometimes, the use of these gadgets is, misplaced priority. We've seen that, and we have also achieved, greatly in the fight against insecurity. What we are seeing is not compared to what we are having in 2021, 2022. We have at least been able to, get it right to some point. We've not seen the issues of bomb blacks as it used to be. Right. But now, what we need is intelligence-driven operations, just like we are also seeing around the Northeast and the North Central. Only when the military is giving the best support, then their morals and motivations will be high, and in the fight against insecurity.
All right, Mr. Onaja, we've had recent incidents of bombings. Just late Sunday, an IED killed a colonel and troops. We've had in Borno State as well. And the Tucano jets, just put it on record, the previous administration ordered for it in 2018, and we took delivery in 2021. So I imagine you're saying maybe are you referring to the PDP government in the sense of the previous administration, but it was actually procured during the previous administration. But this conversation is very important. Why? It speaks to the heart of this fight, really, the welfare, because winning this war is a mix of different things. There's the man itself, there's the machine, the platforms and the equipment and all of the, security apparatus that we need. There is a strategy, there is intelligence, but at the heart of it is the man who carries the guns, the man who gets intelligence, the man who ensures the strategy is fully implemented. So I'd like you to speak to how this, failure to assume office by the chairman of the board is negatively or otherwise impacting the welfare of perhaps retired servicemen and women. So I'd like you to speak to that. Has there been any evidential negative impact of this delay on the welfare?
All right, thank you. I also wish to first comment that, government is continuity. The procurement of the Tucano jet, if it happened in the PDP administration, you'll recall that...
No, it happened under the Buhari administration, 2021, but it was even procured.
Of course, that's what I wanted to clarify. Exactly what I wanted to clarify, that it is during the late President Muhammadu Buhari's administration, and of course, it's still the APC government, that His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is key in, ensuring that the government succeeds. Talking about the welfare of our citizens and how bad it has been with the leadership vacuum created at the military pension board. Honestly, so to say that we have never had it so bad. It's a situation where we've seen, soldiers, going on a all because they felt that their entitlement has been deprived. And it's unfortunate that the level of corruption that has engulfed the military hierarchy has never been, all because, they felt that the life of the veterans are not being taken care of. And if they see what is happening within the military cycle, honestly, some group have allegedly said, if you go to Asokoro and you go to Maitama, most of the houses are procured by, top hierarchy officers, allegedly. Why? Because corruption has taken over, or because they see that the life of their own, veterans is nothing to write to me about. So they also came to a conclusion that said, look, if this is what we are going to get in post-life service, Is it not better we settle ourselves while in service? I think this is one of the reasons why we are having it so bad, because this is a country where we've, military have been alleged. We've seen issues where, soldiers protested that some commanders, GOCs have, conniving with some of these bandits, as they have alleged to say. And this is, I think, to me, it's a corrupt case, because they are not assured of that tomorrow. So it has become so bad in the military formation, seeing veterans begging for medical attention, begging how to feed. At least I have a retiree from where I come from, and when each time I see them, honestly, I sympathize with them. I was in Benue.
Mr. Anaja, if I may comment, I think we're all on the same page when it comes to the welfare of our officers, but I'm not sure I'm trying to understand what you're saying all at the same time. On one hand, you praise the government for doing what it should do. On the other hand, you're talking of sabotage. On the other hand, you're talking about people within the government acting stronger than the government. So maybe you may have to be clear on exactly what it is that you are trying to convince the audience and maybe the government to do as far as this fight against insurgency and all of that is concerned. As my colleague has said, man is at the center of it. Right now, the security situation is horrible and terrible. And even the government knows that. So the president was even in Plateau. So in closing, if you were to speak with the president as we speak right now, what would you be telling him as something to do to motivate the men?
First, His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu have done that. It's quite unfortunate that some hierarchy within the military have an affront, to go against the exalted power of the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. Stopping his appointee to resume from resuming office.
Mr. Anaja, just a moment. I understand the part of the appointee. How would that change anything? It's just an appointment. It
is important when there's a vacuum at the military pension board.
Okay.
When the soldiers' allowances are not paid as and when due because of that vacuum that has been created. As I speak with you, AVN Abubakar has not been allowed to resume office. So how do you have coordination of payment of gratuity, DBACO allowances, and all sorts when there is no leadership, when there is nobody to even, say this and say that? So that is the problem. Not until we have leadership coordination at the military pension board, the gratuity of our pension, of our pensioners and our servicemen will not be paid.
Well,
this is how bad it has become. So the question is, will Mr. President allowed, his appointee to be denied, resumption? So if I'm with Mr. President, the first I must advise is appointee should be allowed to resume office immediately. The welfare of the soldiers.
All right, Mr. Jonathan, you can land on that thought.
The welfare of the soldiers can only be prioritized when they have somebody at the helm of affairs. And so the morals of the soldiers will be high when they are assured that their gratuity, their pensions will be paid when they put their life online. And again, hazard allowances will be paid when eventually they sustain any sort of injuries in the cause against, in the fight against insecurity. Right. If they are not assured of their gratuity, how do you expect them to put their life on the line?
Yeah, Mr. Noja, we're hoping to have a more holistic conversation on the welfare of the serving officers currently. The last we checked, pension is for retirees, either the military retirees or the workers in the federal or state governments in any cadre. So perhaps, we'll explore this conversation at a more auspicious time when we can look holistically at the welfare of current serving military men as it impacts on the ongoing fight against insurgency. But most thank you very much. Mr. Jonathan Onoja is a security consultant who has weighed in on this conversation. Thank you for your time on the program.